Sup, bitches? It's me, Nails here, and I got another great review for you. So basically, you might enjoy The Running Man by Stephen King from 1981 if you want a really balls to the wall action sci-fi thriller where it really feels like it comes from a dark alley. It's uncompromising and bleak and depressing, and nobody wins. And it's very violent, and the dialogue is really good, and it's very plausible, even though it's in an all at this point a different timeline, a different reality, because it was a prediction of 2025 from the standpoint of 1981 when it was written, and it was written under the pen name Richard Bachman originally. I'm not sure why. So basically, this is bleaker than your average Stephen King novel. You have this guy, Ben Richards, in this dystopian hellhole America in some big city where basically the working class is a slave class, and it's all too relevant of today's modern dystopian hellscape we all live in. And so basically, the power of the freebie TV, which is essentially King's prediction of the internet, and all of the brain rot slop content that is pumped out. It grows the mega media conglomerate corporations so powerful they just through the paperwork somehow the bureaucracies are able to swallow and buy out the government, and it becomes the new government, essentially the most powerful force. It's like if they got all the fight out of people by having them project onto political narrative psyops through manipulation, like gladiatorial, like Emperor Commodus's gladiatorial games in the ancient Roman Empire, and or like America's Most Wanted on steroids with no morality. So it's very cyberpunk in spirit by having these corporations find a million legal loopholes until they desensitize the unthinking masses of the population into just not resisting the inhumane conditions they're able to get away with in these gladiatorial game shows. So essentially, The Running Man is the most popular of these sadistic, inhumane shows, which are blood sports. Which basically they get this guy, they gaslight the public into thinking he's a criminal, and then to put it so there's like this background tone of like projecting a sort of trust in nationalism and government and authority, very very relevant to today's ridiculous low life scum people projecting their worth into the partisan political culture division war by thinking, Midas right mentality, resurgent medieval barbarian, worship kings and lords, essentially these serf mashed potato brain people. It all just is so relevant in this book. And so Ben Richards is your typical everyman, but in a slightly cyberpunk dystopian future, which he's so desperate, and his kid is sick, and he can't support his family, and so he's just probably the angriest, most bleakest Stephen King character I've ever encountered, I think. And I relate to this guy a little too close for comfort. This book reminded me of my own life a little bit. I mean, I was auditioning for Fish Tank recently. So, so anyways, basically he's got nothing to lose, so he auditions for the Suicide Show of The Running Man, where these government employees basically, or I guess at that point they're interchangeable with the TV network, so the owners of the freebie TV or whatever, they hunt down these supposed criminals, and it's like a game show, and they televise to the public, where they are, and I think other people can turn them in for money. A lot of the little details of the plot, I'm not going to lie, I don't really remember, but ultimately, it's the setting that's the most interesting part, and some of the nuances of the delivery with it shows in the dialogue and the moment by moment action that just shows the utter bleakness. There's some deadpan humor in there that's so far removed. It's coming from a true, genuine place, like many Stephen King books. It's very obvious this is coming from a place of relatability of what it feels like to be trapped in the working class and have no hope for the future. And that's obviously very much like Roadwork and other Bachman books. That's what it plays into, just the contrast and the juxtaposition, the lack of care or understanding by the unthinking, impulsive, morally base masses that don't realize they're collectively empowering this tyranny. It just shows the utter bleakness and inhumanity of modern Western civilization. And things like this exist now that didn't in 1981. Like, you see YouTube live streams of police chases and people treating it like entertainment, and like live streamers like XQC, like watching it. And I'm not blaming people like that. I mean, I watch them myself. I mean, if you're kind of nihilistically self-removed in role plays, like my whole Nails personality, when I like, you can actually start to enjoy. I mean, if you, it's one of those situations where if you don't laugh, you cry. But pick your poison. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other what to do. I'm not the most moral, voice of reason to listen to, especially not because I'm in character right now. But my point is, like, The Running Man is probably the most meta, indirect social, creepily, queerly prophetic social commentary novel that we could ever see about 2025 and what it was really like as we enter this dystopian age of widespread ignorance and people sacrificing collective shared human value systems of humanity for political radicalism, which they project onto this false sense of belonging that comes from being hyper addicted to social media. So, especially with the whole doom scrolling thing and addicted to like TikTok videos of police brutality, violence, and how that spreads wildfires on like viral wildfires, so to say, on X and platforms like this. And it's all just bullshit, brain rot, slop content to deprogram your humanity so that you can get desensitized and pay into the gangsters that run and bribe the system, the meat grinder that we're all stuck in, the mechanical overlords and then the demon lords like Moloch that hide behind all of these false like imitations of reality, so that you actually think like you belong to something, but you're really having your soul sucked away, your essence sucked away by these forces over time. And Stephen King just hit the nail on the head through the perfect microcosm juxtaposition of that, which is an ultra meta allegory that happens to have some badass action and really killer dialogue that's realistic and immersive at the same time. Now, it's not my state. The reason why it doesn't get a 10 out of a 10 score from me, like other Stephen King masterpieces like The Stand or Salem's Lot, is because it's so utterly bleak. It doesn't have that same like heartwarming, reassuring, comforting, escapist fantasy of good versus evil. Even in stories like It, one of my favorite books, you don't have that in this story because it's so utterly bleak. But that's also ironically what makes it really original and different if you want to like investigate the darkness on another level objectively that only the lens of fiction can give you, because it's a world of no consequences, at least no direct spiritual, demonic, lingering infestations that might result from you going down said metaphysical corridors. But in any case, I do recommend it, but it's not for the faint of heart, like any other Stephen King book. Because I mean, it is evil, but it's just a fiction book, right? It can't hurt us. So in any case, I give it an 8 out of 10. And because it's so bleak that it's not my personal favorite. I like to see happy endings. I like to see redemption. I like to see the good guys win. And sometimes you're in the mood for something different. So that's what keeps it away from a perfect score. So I wouldn't say, in order to make sure that I'm blameless before God, so to say, that I don't give it like say that this book had any real ideals, because it really is rather too depressing, bleak, and angsty for comfort to really be like compared to other masterworks like The Stand or It or Salem's Lot, masterworks in their own genre, so to say, in my humble opinion.